This conference will now be recorded.
Hello and welcome. This is the Boulder County High School Voter Registration Liaison Overview and Official Training. That means if you're watching this webinar that you are first getting an overview and of the program, but you're also getting officially trained by us by watching it. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so first, just a quick overview of the voter registration liaison, what that role is, and just the overview. As an aside, every Colorado public high school is required by law to designate a staff member to be trained in voter registration. We know here in Boulder County, at least, that many high schools have a deputy registrar. That is actually the official name in law for this position, but we didn't want to confuse the schools or the people in those positions, so we've renamed this program the High School Voter Registration Liaison. But just so you know, it is under statute called the High School Deputy Registrar. So the principal appoints that staff person, and that's the person that helps citizens at their school register to vote while on school grounds. And that person is trained in voter registration basics by their county clerk's office, and that's this training. Just going over the role of the liaison. The liaison, first and foremost, is supposed to be the go-to person who helps people register, vote, and answers questions. They make voter registration forms available. They help validate the paperwork when possible and appropriate, and that's if you're collecting forms. So we'll get to that in a little bit, which is not required, but is something is optional to do. And then if you do collect the forms, if you choose to do that, making sure that paperwork, those registration forms, do get forwarded to our office on a regular basis. Being a liaison is easy. We really want to make this not a burden and something just super simple on your part. So taking this training, just completing the couple of additional steps, the oath of office, which we'll get to later, and just getting the letter from your school. But otherwise, just really, we want to make this easy. You're first and foremost a source of knowledge for the student, mostly for the students, but also teachers. Telling them that, making sure you know our website, bouldercountyvotes.org, knowing the website to go register to vote, which is govotecolorado.gov, and then just being able to answer basic questions. When's the next upcoming election, things like that. So we want to make this position as easy as possible and not a burden. So your main responsibility is to help direct students and staff on where to get registered to vote, whether online or in person, return forms if you do choose to collect them, and then, of course, if you want to go above and beyond, doing registration drives, events, things of that nature. But those are optional, and we can always help you or direct you to an official voter registration guide if that's something you'd like to do. Okay, so we're going to break out what voter registration is, the age to register versus the age to vote in a moment. So first, this slide is about voter registration in high school. Some sophomore, pretty much everyone 16 and older is able to vote, and so some sophomores, most juniors, and all seniors. And we say all seniors because, of course, there could be an exception to that in your school. You might have a young student that is a senior that is not 16. So, but 16 and older can pre-register to vote, and obviously these additional requirements of being a citizen, Colorado resident for at least 22 days, and hopefully the third bullet does not apply. The age to vote in Colorado. You can be 16 and older to register, and then to vote, beginning this year, 17-year-olds who will turn 18 years old on or before the date of the next general election, which is November 3rd this year, are eligible now to vote in primary elections. So that means the majority of our seniors, high school seniors today in Colorado can vote in this year's presidential primary, March 3rd. So we need to get them registered if they'd like to cast a ballot for that election, because ballots go out beginning February 10th, but they can register and vote through Election Day. And also the state primer, they'll be eligible to vote in as well, which is this summer, June 30th. Then for all other elections, you must be 18 years old. So for instance, last fall, while this legislation was passed last spring, last fall, only you had to be 18 years old because that was a coordinated election. So that's those were mostly city and county issues. So just an overview of elections in Colorado. All eligible voters are mailed a ballot. However, in Colorado, if you don't want to vote your mail ballot or for some reason don't get it, you can go to any voter service and polling center in your county and go vote in person. And then voters can also register and vote on the same day up through and including election day. You do need to bring an ID in person, and there's a whole list of IDs at govotecolorado.gov. Not beyond your Colorado driver's license and ID card. So passports, things of that nature. And there's some caveats to all those things as well. And also for students, one of the things is a paycheck from an official organization can also qualify potentially as an ID. Okay, no. All right, registration 101. So we'll have a few slides here on registration. So the easiest way probably to direct most students and staff is to go to register online. If they have a Colorado driver's license or state ID, or I believe you can also register with if you have a driving permit here in Colorado. So the one thing we do want to note is that if you do pre-register at 16, you can register online. However, unless you're eligible to vote in this calendar year, meaning turning 18 by November 3rd, once you're registered online, you won't be able to go check your registration if you're 16, and that's for privacy reasons. So pretty much for everyone that's not eligible to vote in this calendar year is considered a confidential voter, and you won't be able to access that record. But our 17-year-olds who will be turning 18 can access and change their registration online. Then the other way for people to get registered, especially if they don't have those, is to register by paper form, which we're distributing voter registration forms to all schools, but they're also downloadable on govotecolorado.gov. And then as a liaison, you have two options. You can obviously give them to students, and if you do choose to collect them, there's some things that you have to go through, or you could direct that person to return it or mail it or drop them off themselves. If you do choose as a liaison to collect and return forms to our office, there are some things that you'll need to do. First is you'll need to date stamp it, so you'll need to make sure you have a date stamp. Then you're going to need to provide a receipt to that person. It's an outdated piece of legislation that we are working on getting removed at some point, but we will email a template receipt, but it's just a little form that says, I helped so-and-so get registered to vote, and probably give them directions to check their registration online at a future date. And if you do choose to collect them, there's a legal timeline around before an election of how frequently you have to get forms to us, and we're going to jump to that now. Well, actually, in just a moment, real quick, we're going to look at this slide here, which goes over if you are doing a paper form. So that's what the website looks like on the right. On the left is the paper form, and those circled areas are the most critical places that they have to fill out. So if you are collecting forms, like I said, you're supposed to forward the forms, your registrations weekly, and then we'll get on the next page, there's a schedule when it's close to an election. And then the last 8 days prior to an election, you can collect registration, but you're required to inform that person that they won't be mailed a ballot and that they need to go vote in person and register and vote in person. So. Okay, so here is the timeline if you do choose to collect forms currently. Right now you need to collect them and mail them off weekly, now until February 14th. The week of the 17th to the 21st, technically you're supposed to mail them or drop them off daily. However, we urge you not to mail them this week, and because if you mail them, for instance, mail is now taking up to a week. So if you mail them on the 20th, we may not get them until after the deadline to mail ballots. So we really, while it's not required in statute, we're really urging everyone, if you are collecting them, to drop them off in person for us, because Monday, February 24th, is the last day we can mail ballots to voters. Okay, so then the week of the 24th, as I just recently said, is that week is you're supposed to advise registrants to go register and vote in person. Okay, where to return forms. So for if you're at a school um, that we know for both school districts, both BVSD and St. Vrain Valley, that there are students that live, a good portion of them live in Boulder County, but there are, especially in St. Vrain, areas that are heavily outside of Boulder County. If you are in a school district that resides in Weld, so that would be Frederick, Erie, and Meade, I believe, are all on the Weld side of the county line. Please have them, unless you know for sure that you don't have to separate the forms, but send them to Weld, and they'll get us our Boulder County voters forms, and we have a process for that. But if you're not sure and you're short on time, or for my school districts that are completely within Boulder County, again, if there's one-off students that live in a different county, we take responsibility. We will make sure that we scan and get those forms over to the right county, no matter what, in time for them to be mailed a ballot. So, and we have an arrangement with the other two counties. But if you are one of those 3 high schools that is in Weld, we do recommend taking it to the Weld County clerk instead of to our office, if possible. Okay, ID requirements. You as a liaison are not required to check anyone's ID at all whatsoever. That is our job, but really when you register online, they're pulling the driver's license number, and so that is an ID check. And that's how that ID requirement gets filled. When people register by paper, that is fine. And again, if they do it with their driver's license number, that fulfills that ID requirement. But if they go to vote in person, they'll need to bring an ID. Or, for instance, you can register with your last 4 digits of your Social Security number by paper, and then they'll be mailed a ID required ballot, and that just requires the voter to return a copy of an acceptable ID with their ballot the first time. And you can always contact our office if you have additional questions on that. Okay, so now what? Thank you again so much for stepping up and doing this role as a voter registration liaison. There are so many ways to help encourage students to register to vote and get out there and vote, especially this primary, since so many of our high school seniors are able to cast a ballot. I don't want to run through these, but here's just some additional ideas for you. We also put a lot of this into some of the emails that we had circulated. And then one thing is that there are, if this feels overwhelming and you really do want to get more students registered, but you're not sure how to go about it, there are some organizations that are professional voter registration drives. They have different deadlines to meet, and so they actually, the last week that they can come into schools is next week, is the week of February 3rd, because their forms are due to us the 10th. So I know there's some ready and willing to get started as soon as you call them. So there is a list on the Secretary of State's website, govotecolorado.gov, and there we have a link on our high school resources page as well, which if you didn't, we do have that linked on our website, bouldercountyvotes.org. But that is one way to contact those voter registration drives. And also, we also, as the elections office, we also sometimes we can come in and assist as well. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and just need some guidance on wanting to get out there and register more students, that's a possibility either before the primary through our office or later in the school year through a professional voter registration drive. Okay, the presidential primary overview, just a few more slides left. Just wanted to touch on this. The presidential primary, there's only one contest on the ballot, that's the president. If your presidential primaries are only held by the Democratic and Republican parties, unaffiliated voters receive both ballots in the mail, but they can only vote and return one ballot. So you need to participate in the presidential primary. You need to be registered a Democrat, Republican, or an unaffiliated voter. And just to clarify as well, Republicans only get the Republican ballot, Democrats only get the Democratic ballot, and then unaffiliated voters get both ballots but can only cast and return one. And then, of course, we've already gone over our 17-year-olds who will turn 18 by November 3rd are eligible to vote and will be sent a ballot automatically if they're registered. And then, of course, there's still party caucuses, and those are gatherings that really help determine party leadership and ultimately who's placed on the June 30th primary ballot. Those we do not run the caucuses. We do know they are on March 7th, and we help support their efforts and post information on our website, but those are run by the parties. And just a couple of additional deadlines coming up after the February 3rd is the last day to change party affiliations. That means if you are, for instance, registered as a Republican and want to switch to being a Democrat or vice versa, that deadline to change party affiliation is Monday. And then otherwise, but you can still register to vote as a first-time voter after that, or change your mailing address or things of that nature. But if you're trying to switch party affiliation, February 3rd is that deadline. And then after that, the ballots begin to be mailed in February 10th, and we continuously mail them as new registrants come into our system. And then February 24th is the last day to either register and be mailed a ballot, or update your mailing address or ask for a replacement ballot be mailed to you. February 24th is also when our voter service and polling centers open. And then, of course, Tuesday, March 3rd is Election Day, and we consider that the end of the election, the last day for you to return your ballot by 7 p.m. And then here, this slide is just some additional resources. I, again, am Mircala Wozniak, and I'm happy to help in any way. And that is it. And I know we went through this pretty quickly, and I am happy to always answer questions. So again, my email's right there. My phone number is 303-413-7766. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching this training. And then the next step to becoming an official high school voter registration liaison is to have the principal get a letter to us with your name, and then contact our office to get the oath of office. And that's really just, we'll do that verbally over the phone, and that's just saying that you'll perform the duties as the high school voter registration liaison as laid out and trained. So thank you so much, and we appreciate your time and the work that you're doing to help register our students.